There are a wild amount of comments saying Marathon is going to suck. And honestly, I get why. The art scandal, terrible. The gamers that only care about movement and going viral on TikTok, it's not their type of game. And the word extraction alone is enough to make half of the internet kind of check out. But here's the thing, what if people are judging Marathon like it's just another shooter? I believe Bungie is actually building something that plays by completely different rules, because there are a few systems in the game that most people don't even realize they exist. And once you understand them, Marathon starts to look very different. The conversation around Marathon has been stuck in the same place. I don't like the art style. Tarkov is better. Why would I play this over Arc Raiders? And that's the problem. Marathon isn't trying to be the next Tarkov. It's not trying to copy what Arc Raiders has already done. Even though the gunplay is incredible in Marathon, Bungie is not just betting on the gunplay to carry this game. They're betting on the systems. Systems that change how you read the map, how you interpret danger, and how much you're willing to risk every single time you drop in. And once you see the systems clearly, you start to realize something. Marathon isn't another twitchy shooter, it's an information shooter. Let's start with one of the smartest ideas in the game. In Marathon, when a player dies, their body just doesn't sit there forever, it decays. This means that bodies aren't just loot containers, they're information. A fresh body on the ground tells you something very different than a body that's been sitting there for a while. A body that's been looted will slowly decay over time as it's looted, and a mostly decayed body means that the chances of good loot are honestly pretty slim at that point. Bungie is basically turning the map into a timeline. You're not just asking who died here, you're asking when did they die here and what does that mean for me based on that info. But Bungie didn't just stop there though. In Marathon, runners are these cybernetic mercenaries that you play as, and they have customizable options, skill trees, unique abilities, and play styles based on their class. They introduced a runner shell called Rook. It's essentially a scavenger that can drop into matches already in progress, which means that not everyone you encounter started at the same time that you did. Someone might be cleaning up the aftermath of a fight that you never saw. So now you're piecing together a story as a player in Marathon. Was that fight 5 minutes ago? Did Rook just pass through? Is someone still watching the area? Each match in Marathon has history, and you're stepping into the middle of it. And while you're focused on the danger from potential players, you have to realize this game puts you into a hostile ecosystem. The danger in this game just doesn't come from other players. You might enter a room only to find out that it's a hazardous chamber that locks behind you, or various environmental enemies might latch onto you and take away what you thought was a safe route. Each map or zone has larger PvE events that happen. They're not guaranteed to happen each run, but when they do, you are absolutely going to know. The UESC, your main PvE threat, might just be the best AI that Bungie has ever designed, and that's saying something. They'll use smart tactics to flank you, providing cover fire so that other UESC enemies can move up and rush you even if they're a brute. When you really look at it, the PvE aspect of this game doesn't feel like filler. It feels more like friction, something that's there to constantly interfere with your perfect plan, but it could also be used as a way to slow down an enemy that's chasing you if you're trying to get away. And with the environment being a real threat in this game, every single choice you make feels like it carries weight. If this is the kind of breakdown that helps you actually understand what a game is trying to do, consider subscribing, because this channel isn't just about hype cycles or reaction takes. It's about breaking down why games work, why you should care, and to help you see what games are really worth your time. Now let's talk about risk. In Marathon, Bungie has built a weapon system around assembly, not jackpots. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're still excited to find weapons in this game, but it's just going to be a little different. You're extracting parts, mods, and components that don't feel special maybe on their own, but they become valuable once you start stacking intent behind them. And what this ultimately does is it changes how you think about loot. You're not as focused on thinking, is this gun good? You're thinking about, well, how does this move my build forward? And because builds take time, every extraction run becomes part of a longer story. You're investing, which means losing a weapon just isn't losing a fight, it's losing progress. On top of that, Marathon's faction system isn't just a checklist of cosmetic or weapon unlocks like you might find in other games. Bungie designed the faction progression to permanently raise your baseline. As you commit to factions, your vault is going to grow, the access you get improves, your starting conditions get much better. You'll also have seasonal wipes in the game, meaning you'll lose progress, but Bungie will have a set of commemorative items that will show you how well you did in the season. The goal is that every season feels like its own unique journey with rewards for those who really dedicate the time. But this is where I think Bungie is making a very intentional choice in Marathon. They don't try to protect you from loss. There's no insurance system quietly refunding your best loadout, no safety valve that lessens the blow of failure if you don't extract. If you love being a third party, you have a lot to think about before you jump into a fight. The audio design in Marathon is fantastic, and so smart players will be able to detect which direction an aggressive squad is coming from and what material they're on. Are they on stairs? Are they on metal? Are they in sort of an outside damp environment? They can pick you up that well. The more information you have on a fight, the better. Knowing which archetypes the enemy teams have before pushing could be the difference between success and failure. Are you really willing to risk everything you've collected this round with a chance of losing it all? That's the question you've got to ask yourself. The emotional pressure really peaks at extraction, not mid-fight, when everything you've built and gathered is on the line, and one bad decision can undo hours of work. Well, you be prepared. The interesting thing about Marathon is that it doesn't treat maps as interchangeable arenas. It treats zones as filters as a way of deciding who belongs where. The early zones give you room to breathe, allowing you to learn systems, experiment within the game, learn the weapons, and recover from fights. But as you move deeper and unlock different zones and maps, that's really where the game starts to apply the pressure. Fewer routes available, tighter layouts, and more significant consequences for your mistakes. Bungie isn't increasing difficulty by giving enemies more health and turning them into bullet sponges. They're taking the environment around you and making it a more difficult space to fight and really survive in. Your margin of error goes out the window, and it's up to you to survive and successfully extract when you're ready. This really proves true when you look at an endgame area in Marathon like Cryo Archive. It's described as cramped, hostile, and heavily secured. You should not go into a place like Cryo Archive planning to improvise. You should be planning to prepare. And if you're a Destiny player who went through raids before, this should feel all too familiar. You're not showing up to these types of areas and hoping that your aim carries you. You need coordination, you need awareness, and you need a plan for when things go wrong, because trust me, they will. And to even get into an area like Cryo Archive, you need to have some of the best loot in the game. This is not something you can go into with just a little bit of loot and hope you can dominate. No, the game is going to force you to bring in a lot of good stuff. This is the type of area where Marathon stops feeling like a mix of a looter and extraction shooter and starts feeling closer to a raid. Each decision you're making is going to be magnified because there's really nowhere to retreat. Cryo Archive has already been described as having raid-like security puzzles that you have to solve, and they also feature 7 frozen vaults. These vaults are said to have incredible loot, and you know that everybody else out there will be having incredible loot on them as well. But you're dealing with AIs and these enemy players, and they are all racing to get that same sweet loot. And as amazing as the loot might sound, it's really not just about that here. It's about the lore behind what really happened in the game to turn this planet into a chaotic hellscape that it's become. And there's even hints that there's something massive in one of the vaults that could, quote-unquote, rewrite Marathon's dark sci-fi story. Color me excited. These are really the elements that make me not just excited about Marathon's endgame, but about its future as well. We're not being rewarded with just pure power. There's lore to be had to give us context to really what's happening behind the scenes and in this game. Fighting and winning in these tight spaces mean you've really kind of earned your place. It means that your team planned better, they fought better, and they left with more loot than everyone else in the game will be desiring at that point. You're not just chasing weapons and loot, you're chasing the game's secrets that lie in the most difficult to reach and extract from locations in the game. That is what we're talking about. A major change to Marathon that happened from the alpha to where the game is going to ultimately ship to is that they're going to have proximity chat. And look, it's not the first extraction shooter to do it, but I think there's something special here. With the way the Marathon is built, with an extra emphasis on high-risk stakes, this means that not every encounter is going to end in gunfire. Sometimes shooting first is the worst option in an extraction shooter, and I think it can be sometimes in Marathon. Talking might buy you a little bit of time, cooperation can reduce risk, and hesitation can be a strategic choice, not a weak one. In the early versions of Marathon, the lack of proximity chat hurt the game more than I think the developers originally realized. It gives you a human element that the game sorely needed in a game where you are having tons of loot on you and you need to be able to talk your way out of something or try to, distract someone at some point. It is a massive element of these types of games. Regardless of how much time you put into the game though, Marathon is not just for the daily grinders. Reward passes in this game do not expire. Your progression each season actually means something. What's brilliant about Marathon is that it feels like the game expects you to leave and come back on your own terms. That's not something you get from most games now. Life gets in the way and you don't always have time to finish a season pass, or maybe another game comes out and you're spending more time on that. Marathon really feels like it respects your time, and when you're ready to grind it, it'll be there. The anxiety or FOMO of falling behind, that really doesn't appear to technically be here in Marathon. But finally, Bungie has a history of constantly shaking up the meta in its games. I still cry over in the Gjallarhorn being nerfed in Destiny, but I think one thing Bungie has always done with their titles is try to make sure that things are shifting and evolving rather than just staying stagnant. So I think it's safe to say with Marathon, you can expect a constantly shifting meta to be the same. There's modular weapons, there's runner shells, different classes, environmental variants, seasonal additions. All of these Bungie's systems are designed to interact in unpredictable ways, much like the dynamic weather even in the game. This is not Bungie's first rodeo with a live service shooter. They are not chasing balanced perfection. They're chasing a constantly shifting meta that proves just enough to stay interesting without becoming unpredictable and chaotic. And when you combine that with the gunplay that feels rewarding, I think that's how games like this stay alive. Not by being perfect, but by rewarding users for playing how they want, when they want, and refusing to stand still. If you're still on the fence about Marathon, look, I get it, that's fair, but there's an open beta coming just before launch, and if you try the beta after this video, you'll notice some things that other people won't. If you want more great content like this video, you can check out one of the videos on the screen right now, and if this kind of breakdown helps you see the game differently, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the way down.